Hello and welcome to Colin Bradley Artcast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
How you
Hi,
doing,
Steve.
Dad?
I'm doing all right. You've had a nice few days away?
Yeah, it was very nice. Long old drives there and back, but that's because everyone is no doubt visiting the West Country for their holidays, and including us, and we are stuck in all of this traffic. So it was a couple of really long journeys, but we got back last night, and yeah, back on it today. And yeah, it was a really lovely break, and Elowen had a great time, just surrounded by lots of people walking everywhere and just having just such a great time. Her development just shot up with the amount of conversations and people interacting with her and all sorts. It was so many challenges and so much stimulation for her. So yeah, it was really, really lovely.
Good. Well, I'm so pleased. It's lovely, isn't it? The toddler age is, I think, one of the best ages there are. When they're babies, they're lovely, cute, but when they start walking and toddling around, it's a pleasure.
Yeah,
Certainly.
it is amazing how much she's learning and developing, and she's so funny. It's just absolute. It's so entertaining. It's so entertaining at this age. It really is. Um, Excellent, excellent. So you've had a busy week. We've got a picture to show everyone this week. We had the work in progress last week, and you
Mhm.
finished the picture. So let's flash that up on screen now, and let's talk about this. I think it's probably because the picture that I had last week was slightly more zoomed in, or it felt like it was more zoomed in, and it feels like with the finished picture there is a lot more to the actual picture than I thought there was going to be. Um, and it is so realistic. I don't think I've seen a more realistic log and a surface that you've done this up close previously.
No. Well, do you remember I said last week there can be a few surprises? Well, I was attracted to that. I mean, I love the dark. I thought it was very, very attractive, but it was the log and the water and the general idea of that that appealed to me more.
I can
So
see why.
yes, you could see it's, and from our point of view, from the teaching point of view, we had the rock last week, didn't we? And or the week before, and now we've got log. Now it's very difficult to do, and people will see that what the dug is standing on is hard enough. But when you get on the right hand side of that, you've got that. It's like when I say it's a log, it's more like a tree, isn't it? And
Mm.
it may well be a tree that's dropped into the water. I don't know. I couldn't see any more of it. What you see is what I saw. But that was really hard. That was tough to do, and people are going to love seeing how that progresses from just squiggles, because that's what they were, to the finished product. And
Mm.
I love doing that kind of thing. That's my thing. But people, if they have a go at that, they'll understand how you can manipulate really the pastel pencils to create fantastic things. The thing I've talked about before, and it's very obvious in this. I didn't backtrack anywhere. Once I started doing it, I finished it without any erasing, without any. It was just putting the lighter tones on, then the medium tones on, then the dark tones on, and then the very dark tones on. Gradually building that up to the point where you can see it now. And then finally, you just put a few little highlights in. So it's a good lesson, that one on its own.
Mm. It looks challenging. It looks hard. The thing that I think that makes it so realistic and eye-catching is the subtlety of shading of light on that far right-hand side. Um, it's so real, the lighting on and it almost looks digital because it's got detail, but it's not got detail. I could look at that and go, oh, that looks more like a digital painting in terms of its the amount of the work that's gone into it. You know, on digital painting, you can layer, you know, work on something and really fine tune it until it becomes realistic. But when you're using a physical medium, there are certain limitations to that. So I think it's amazing that you achieved that level of depth of subtlety and shading with the physical medium on something that is really not easy to replicate.
It's interesting you say that, because I've done some digital work, as you know, and quite successfully. But I didn't really stick with it. And the reason I didn't is because it's a bit like acrylic. When you're using acrylic paint, you put the lights on, then you add your colours and your dark colours, and then you overpaint, a lot of overpainting. Now with digital, you do the similar thing. With pastel, completely different. What you put on stays there and can be seen through. Do you know what I mean? You have a, and that's where you get this three-dimensional effect, Steve, more than you do with digital, in fact. And I hadn't thought about that until you said it. So it's interesting, isn't it? Pastel is a unique medium. I've said this so many times, and when you look at the picture like that, and the subsequent pictures I'm going to be doing, you think, how on earth do you ever work that out? How can you work that out? Well, it's experience, one thing, and it's the pastel that can bring you that level of realism, I suppose you could say. Even though you're not trying to put a real thing down, it's supposed to be a painting. You can sense that realism. And the other thing you can do is, because you're using pastel mat, you've got that grip, you've got that lovely surface in which to work. We know it's hard. It is hard to work because you've got to fill it up. UART paper's even more difficult to work with because it's even grittier. But the grittier it becomes, and the more you have to work on it, and the more three-dimensional you get. So I hope I've explained that quite well. It's how I see it.
Aside from the surface of the tree and what the duck is on, were there any other aspects of this picture that were particularly challenging for you, or any areas you want to talk about?
I think the detail of the duck was quite hard because you have to. It's not very big. The duck isn't very big. The picture's not very big. So you're talking about just a little bit over A5 really, and as a whole. So you can imagine the duck is quite small. So you've got to use sharp pencils. You've got to get the detail right, and I think that was probably the thing that I found most challenging, really, to get all those different colours and different details in, especially with the blacks and the whites and the blues and the mauves. But no, other than that, as long as you've got sharp pencils, you're okay. Now, I've put this in the intermediate bracket, Steve, and the reason I've done that is because I want people to do it. I don't want people to, that's an advance, so I better not try it. I want you to try it. I want you to try, even though you may not succeed duck's not so bad. It's the tree, and the water is actually quite easy there. And when people see me do that, you think, oh, well, that's not that difficult. So I didn't spend a great deal of time on it. You know, I've just left it as once it worked, that's it. Leave it alone. So I think, apart from that, no, I think that's the category I'd like it to stay in.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it looks fantastic. I can't wait to hear what people think of this. So let us know in the comments if this is one you're interested in trying out, and what you think of it. We've got to move on because there's another request that's come in from one of our members, Yvonne, and we said that we'd offer some advice on the podcast, as that's what these podcasts are for. So Yvonne has sent in her picture that she's done, and I'll pop that on screen for everyone to see, and also the reference pictures so that you can see what Yvonne's working to. And Yvonne writes, "This little dog means so much to me, so much to me. I lost her to cancer 4 weeks ago. I think it might be the best thing that I've ever drawn, but I'm not sure about the background. Should I have chosen a different colour? I chose pink as she has some pink in her chest and nostrils, but I'm not sure if it's right and what I can do about it. I used a combination of two photos, one for the general outline and the second one for the expression." Well, I think Yvonne's done very well to work from two reference photos for sure. And so let's have a look at this picture. Dad, what advice have you got? Is there anything that Yvonne can do about the background on this picture, and what you would do?
Well, the difficult thing is taking that background off. And I would be very wary of doing that because you could spoil the whole thing if you do that. My suggestion is that I would suggest she does what I generally recommend: get some spare paper that she's used for the animal, reproduce a section of that background. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. It's just a section of it, as she has done. Don't do the dog at the moment. Just leave that alone. Just do the background. So you get a reproduction, basically, on your spare paper of the section of background that you can see on the picture. Now, I would add, is she using Faber-Castell? Well, let's assume she is for the moment using Faber-Castell pencils. I'd use 230, which is a light grey, lightish grey, bluey grey, and I would also get ready with the 233 as well, both of those two colours. Now, the reason I've said that is pink and grey work really well together. Now, this is not something I would do, it's not something I would recommend she did if she was starting out with it, but this is a correcting procedure. Put the grey, the light grey, all over the area that she's done on the spare paper. See what it looks like. I think you'll find that it will mix with the pink really well. Use your finger and blend it in. And then imagine you're going to put a corner as well. 233, add that, and add that so that you reproduce a corner. Have a look at it, put it against the picture that you've done and see what you think. If you like it, there you go.
That's
There's your answer.
interesting. So putting more grey into the pink whilst the pink is down should subdue. Are we kind of trying to temper down that pink a little bit to make it a little bit more grey?
Well, I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't try to remove any of that pink. I would put the grey on top of it. It will work because once you blend it, especially if you're using your finger, which is what I would do, you'll mix the grey and the pink together, so you'll get a grey pinky colour. And I think that
Great.
will work well. But do it on spare paper because it doesn't work. Leave it as it is. Don't touch it because that will spoil it. The other thing you could try to do, if you like, you could, instead of having that sort of rugged bottom that you've got there, why don't you put your finger on it? Now, again, this is a bit risky because once you do it, you've had it. But what I would do is put my finger on that and make it into a cloud instead of having the rough edges. And it's actually quite easy to do. You wouldn't really have to, once you put let's assume that you agree that you're going to put the grey on. So therefore you put it on your picture. In other words, change your background. Put the grey in. Now, when you put the grey in the bottom area of the picture, using some of the light grey and some of the dark grey, you could then swirl that round so that you can actually, I call it putting it into a cloud. It's putting it into out of focus. It stops that sort of rugged bottom. That's only if you feel you want to. And, I'm not going to persuade you to do it. It's what I would do because I think it looks a little better. The other thing is, it gives you kind of an etherical look. Now, this poor poor dog has since passed away, and that's going to be, it's very sad, but sometimes when you do this, it kind of brings it back into an etherical look. It's only a thought, but that's what I would do.
No, that's a nice touch. Yeah, good bit of advice there, Dad. I hope that's helpful, Yvonne, and I hope that's helpful for other people watching, to see what you would do in these instances. So let us know how you get on, and if you have an updated picture to send us, then send that over to us. We'd love to see it.
I would like to see that. Yeah, spend some time on it, but do it the way I've told you. That way, you've still got your picture at the end of the day, and it's a nice picture. You could, I wouldn't say that in any way that it detracts from the animal. I probably wouldn't have used the pink, although in fairness, if I was doing that picture again and I'd done the animal and then thought about the background, I would probably use pink and grey in that background.
There you go. There you go. Excellent stuff. Well, thanks, Yvonne, for your question, and well done on your picture. Look forward to seeing an updated one maybe in the future. As always, if anyone's got anything they want us to talk about, or any questions or anything like that, then please always get in touch with us, and we'll be back next week. Dad, you're going to work on another picture?
Yes. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago I said I was going to do a portrait? Well, I shelved it for the duck, and I'm pleased I did. But I'm now going to do the portrait, but I'm not going to do the one that I thought I was going to do. I found another one with it's very attractive, and I'll talk about it more next week. What I plan to do is to do it in little sections. We'll do one section, and we can talk about that, and then each stage we'll get to the final one.
Lovely. Fantastic. Yeah, excellent. All right, we'll look forward to seeing that next week. In the meantime, thank you everyone for watching and for listening. As always, I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Enjoy your week.